To the Yellow Dog Facebook Live Seychelles session. We're here in Bozeman, Montana, the home of Yellow Dog Fly Fishing Adventures. We've got kind of a unique situation here. So for the last couple weeks, we've been lucky enough to have a whole bunch of the guides from Alphonse Fishing Co to come out here and visit us in Bozeman and fish Montana during the July and August time frame. My name is Jim Klug. I'm the Director of Operations for Yellow Dog. I've been fortunate enough to fish a bunch in the Seychelles in the last few years, and over the years getting to know these guys, I've always said, well, hey, if you guys ever want to come to Montana, we'd love to have you. You know, feel free, you're always welcome. And sure enough, they're like, yeah, we're showing up for 2 weeks, and there's 6 of us. And here they are. So it's been pretty awesome. They've been fishing around Montana for the last couple weeks, and we thought, while they're here, what a great opportunity to hang out, have a couple beers, and just talk fishing in the Seychelles. Start firing your questions into us, and we'll answer them the best that these guys can, and pick their brains. You know, one of the cool things that there's a lot of talk right now about the Seychelles. It's a popular destination. It's certainly the next frontier of kind of what's going on out there in the world of fly fishing, and certainly the world of saltwater flats fishing. A lot being written about it. There's movies being made about it. There's articles out there. You'll see a lot of experts writing books and articles now about the Seychelles, but remember, these are the guys that are guiding those people that are writing the articles. And so you want the insider information right here. This is the crew. So for the next little while, we've got a cooler full of beer. We've got a bunch of stuff we want to talk about, and fire your questions into us via Facebook. And what I'd like to do right now is start off by introducing these guys. Again, all the guides with Alphonse Fishing Company. Over here we've got Dave. We've got Tommy, we've got Cam, we've got Alec, we've got Stu, and we've got Ollie. And they're from kind of all over the place. Let's see, Tommy's from Czech Republic, Alec's from Illinois/California, Ollie's from the UK, and the other boys are from South Africa. But the one thing they all have in common is they've spent a bunch of years guiding together in the Seychelles, mostly on Alphonse, but a number of other places as well, Stove, Cosmo, all these other places. So what I want to do now to kind of get things started before we take some of your questions is I got to ask these guys, why the Seychelles? It's so popular right now. There's a lot of people talking about why would anybody get on a plane, travel for 2 days, multiple flights, overnights, million miles around the world to go to the Seychelles? What's the deal? Why go?
I think it's just completely the kind of the remoteness. I think it's kind of in a sense kind of untouched. It's super kind of exclusive, that the kind of operation that we run, and the fishing is off the chart. So it's a no-brainer why you wouldn't go. It's fantastic out there.
Yeah, I reckon the analogy of the further you go, the better the fishing gets. Definitely rings true for the Seychelles. Places like Alphonse and Cosmo, those kind of places where it takes you 3 days just to get there. It's like that for a reason. Not many people are going to put the effort to get in there. So when you get out there, the fishing is just wild. It's untouched.
What are you guys catching?
So we target 5 species: triggers, giant shreddy, milkfish, bonefish, and palmet. And there's a heap of other kind of cool snapper and just really fun stuff to target, emperors. But those are the 5 species that people really go to now. Those 5. So.
How many species do you think have been caught on the fly, for instance, on like Alphonse over the years?
I think our record's something like 50.
Yeah.
We have a couple species hunters. They come every year, and you'll catch something this big. And you're like, oh, taking pictures, and getting so excited. They're like, what's this? You're like,
exactly. And the cool thing is that there's so many. There's a couple of things like the guides talk about slams in places like the Bahamas and Belize, which are 3 main species. But for us, we come up with so many different sort of slams because there's so many different species to target. Like for instance, the triggers, when you're getting the moustache and the yellow margin, and then to complete it, you need a Picasso, which is a fish this size. And guys will hunt a week to try and catch that fish, and it's cool. And there's so many different options out there to catch.
So here's the question: how are the guides?
Pretty average.
Overrated.
Overrated.
That's a good question. Yeah, pretty much overrated. Yeah.
So I mean, you guys are kind of from all over the world. It's a little bit like the United Nations of guiding there, all different backgrounds. I mean, what's the dynamic? What's it like to be a guide in the Seychelles for 9 months a year?
it's pretty tough. I think you have to. Yeah, it's testing. I think. Well, look, it's a pretty tight group. You have to be a team player. If you're not, you're gonna struggle a little bit. But we all just kind of a struggle is not the right word at all, because we love what we do, but we're kind of all in the same boat, and we all kind of have to kind of pull our own weight and kind of just gel. And it's we've from our personal perspective, I've made some great friends from all over the world. Kind of the States, UK, Czech Republic, Argentina. The list continues. So it's an epic kind of experience, and it's not difficult at all, really. And you learn so much from different kind of cultures or different guides coming from different kind of countries, bringing what they bring to the table, and it just brings a whole new different twist on guiding. It's fantastic.
Exactly like you were saying though, when you're out there, you're not getting guided by one person, you're getting guided by a team of guys. So that's great. Like if someone's having a slow day, then you just jump on the radio and give one of the other guys a shot, and you get put on fish. So that's obviously a huge bonus.
Yeah, I think that's from what I've heard just from the guests that we've ever guided from all over the place, and generally the fly fishing community that travels to these sorts of places are relatively small, so you bump into the same people pretty often, and I think that's something that's pretty unique to the Seychelles and to Alphonse in particular, is just the teamwork around it. There's no secrets. It benefits everybody else to help each other out.
So we did have one question along those lines. People have been emailing in and texting in questions over the last couple days leading up to this, and a guy named Cody asked the question, how do I get your job? How do you become a guide in the Seychelles? I mean, it's 9 months out there. I mean, Alec, you're the head guide on Alphonse. I mean, you hire a couple new people every year. What's the deal with working in the Seychelles?
So yeah, all I can say is I probably look through at least 100 applications in the off season of very experienced guys to someone who's never done it before. And yeah, really it comes down to if you can last 9 months. That doesn't sound that hard just from a word point of view, but really it is very tough. It breaks you down, and the smallest thing can kind of ruin those 9 months. So right away I'm looking into your references and seeing kind of how strong of a character you have. The fishing, it takes care of itself. If you're a good guide or good fisherman, great, but I'm really more focused on what is your character. Are you able to handle it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's extremely mentally kind of demanding. On top of being kind of physically demanding, you're kind of in the sun all day, kind of towing boats, carrying heavy coolers. So there is a certain physical aspect to it, but by far the most demanding is mentally kind of lasting for that long. And yeah, it's you're gonna have those days where it's slow and you kind of think that maybe this isn't for me, and you've kind of got to get over that wall and put it aside and look forward to the next day.
I think that's what makes the team so special, is that everyone gels together. The camaraderie behind the scenes, everyone pulling for the same goal, is what makes the Alphonse team what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the biggest differences for me too is going from guiding in the States, mostly American clients, to now the Seychelles, where there's such an international group of fishermen that come through. So kind of dealing with all these different cultural differences, and having these guys from the Czech Republic or Argentina or Bangladesh or wherever it may be.
You got the Bangladeshi guy.
Alex, South African, is getting pretty good. His Afrikaans is not too far off. He could pass as a Safa any day.
So Yaku Lucas just sent a message and wants to know how to become as awesome as you guys are.
Jackson.
What's up, Yaku? So the other comment that's pretty funny, and I've been fortunate enough. What's up, Jack? I've been fortunate enough to fish with these guys in all different places in the Seychelles, and you were talking about the hard work that it takes to become a guide. There's the workplace of the island and the boats and the guiding, but there's also kind of the environmental aspects of it. And it always kills me. We live here in Bozeman, and you'll go into a bar here in town, and the young guys who are kind of new to guiding are just getting off a long day in the Madison or the Yellowstone, and they're kind of like, oh yeah, man, it was brutal out there today. You know, the trailers were 4 deep at the put-in. I had a super hard day. I fished with these guys, and it's like, well, yeah, I mean, I saw a 13-foot tiger shark today, and then there was, you know, I stepped on this, and this almost ate me, and then this was there. And I mean, there's the environmental issues out there that it's a pretty wild place to work.
Yeah, it's it can be pretty grueling at times. It's yeah, there's a lot of different kind of environmental factors that could put an end to your life pretty much. And we have to kind of take that into account every day we step out in the flats.
Sometimes dirty sunglasses is the end of the world.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You've
that's
cleaned them 30 times.
when you
already.
get that 20 knot wind in your face and you're trying to drive a skiff across
Yeah,
the
this is
mothership and it's just howling, raining, and you just the last thing you want to do is
A little bit
be
of
on
boat
the water.
splash.
You know,
But I
It's
think
not always sunny in the Seychelles.
it's not always the brochure, right?
Yeah,
But I think the biggest thing is definitely like the pre-season stuff that the guys don't really check out. You know, it's days in the water get tough, but it's the pre-season stuff that really gets to you. That it's ultra physical out there. You know, literally rolling barrels of fuel up and down a beach. It's not a lot of fun.
So it's the coral for me.
So we had Evelyn Brown just sent in a question for you guys. She says, I'm told that the fishing in the Seychelles is super challenging, i.e. not good for beginners or intermediate anglers. At a minimum, what kind of casting skills and fishing experience should a person have before heading to the Seychelles? Comment on, you know, what someone can expect.
What do you want
What
to
you wanna
target,
catch.
sort of thing. I mean, the bone fishing is incredible. Like
Yeah.
it's good enough for a beginner to kind of spend
Absolutely.
3-4 days kind of getting into the swing of it,
It's
learning to cast in
yeah.
the wind, turning it around. They can have so much fun just catching bonefish if that's what they want to do.
Yeah,
But
it's definitely not like it's not. You know, you're not going to go out there and you know bust out a 60-foot line to try catch a G. You can catch bonefish on 40-pound maxima and have a great day all day long. It can be that easy.
And 20 feet.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you don't.
for sure.
I mean, we have often, you know, kids will come out there that have never picked up a rod in their life
Exactly,
before
yeah.
and just do a little roll cast off the edge and catch 20+ bonefish in a day, and that's. It can be that easy, but at the same time, you can make it as challenging as you want for yourself.
Yeah.
You can go and hunt permit and try and make a 60-foot cast with 50 pound and try not to speak to fish. It's entirely up to you on your skill level, definitely.
And what are your expectations too?
Yeah, exactly.
You've come,
Yeah, exactly.
you've booked a trip with a guide. Are you there to learn? Or are you just there to catch this fish? You know, if you come with this expectation, I really want to learn how to cast with a double haul or into the wind or whatever it may be, you're going to walk away with something. We're going to all teach you through this variety of guides how to at least make that goal. You know, now catching the fish, it will happen. You will catch fish by the end of your week. It's just what are your expectations?
and you'll definitely improve throughout the week if you come with that sort of mindset of not specifically targeting one fish, but just going for whatever swims past you. I think it's really important just to target everything that's in front of you.
Open-minded,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, you certainly find that sometimes when people come with a bit of a shopping list of they just want this particular species, and sometimes the different weather or the different tides lend themselves to certain species, or it's just that week. And the day and the week will always present its own opportunities, like Tommy was saying, and it's just being open-minded, like he says, and making the most of it. And that's always suddenly you find you come right. Like if you do that, if you're too kind of single-minded, then it can work against you.
Yeah, disadvantage for sure.
So keep an open mind.
Absolutely.
But totally, you would say great for beginners, intermediate experts.
Everyone, the whole spectrum.
We've had countless times where we've had people come to the island and have literally never picked up a fly rod.
I'd say
And
about 10% of our guests.
they like kind of their buddies booked the trip and they've come along and they've seen kind of fly fishing. They've seen the movie with Brad Pitt. And it looks awesome, and they'll come to the island and never kind of pick up a rod before, and they'll go home with an array of species, array of different kind of fish. The bone fishing is insane on Alphonse, but as we spoke about earlier about the different species, I think Ollie mentioned it. There's always something to catch, and if you kind of go in the open mind, as you said, you're going to come away with it, regardless if you picked up a rod or not. You're going to catch fish.
And they're generally pretty lucky anyway, those people.
Yeah, the first time
absolutely.
ever
chilled
Yeah.
out.
We remember the group on Cosmo that we had this last season. most of them had never touched the flower in their life before. I think two people had even fished in their life, and they had the best week of the entire season, 150 plus
something
beats or something crazy
the
like
most of the whole season.
Well, the guys that had never even picked up a rod before. So, like you say, you can make it as challenging as you want it to be.
Yeah, that's perfect. Well, if you guys are just joining us again, we're live here in Bozeman with Yellow Dog Fly Fishing Adventures and the guides of Alphonse Fishing Company. We're taking questions via Facebook. If you want to text some in, if you want to send them to email, whatever's the easiest way, shoot us your questions. All about the Seychelles. These guys have guided just about everywhere out there, fished out there. We got a long time to be here. We got a cooler full of beers. Everything's looking good. So questions keep coming in. Comments keep coming in. Manny Majoran, boys, he says hands on heads. You'll know what it is. There you go, Matty. Good call. Good call. We have.
That's a good one.
There we go, Matty.
You got us.
And another person says, "Don't believe anything that Cameron says." So I'll leave that in. Yeah, we had Bjorn Stromness, our friend who has Bonefish on the Brain, a great blog about saltwater fishing. He wants to know this specifically beyond GTs, because that's an obvious answer for any of you guys who spend a lot of time in the Seychelles. Beyond GTs, what's the species that really gets you excited, whether you're guiding it or fishing it on your own?
Triggers.
Okay, well let's do it one by one. Dave, you go.
I think the one fish that gets me sort of really on my heels is permit. It's the one species fishing by my, if it's me fishing, if I'm targeting that fish, that just throws me off completely.
Dave gets adrenaline headaches from fishing.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can attest to that. And Jim, you can as well. You were there that day, and it's the one species that gets me completely flustered. But aside from that, triggerfish are just the most epic fish to target. They are awesome.
To me, it's
Tommy Tomato Grouper trigger.
Tomato groupers are great. If you're going out there, tomato groupers on top of the list. But as Dave said, triggerfish. They're so temperamental. Like one day you can cast it 100 and you'll have every single one snub you, even if you put the perfect cast. And the next day you'll go out there and they'll just eat everything you put in front of them. And it's about the sight fishing as well. I mean, when you see that tail come up in front of you at 60 meters and you stalk it and you wait and you watch. I think he comes in like this and checks your fly.
Invitations. There we go.
I think those things are the business. Apart from Jeets.
Yeah, I think to kind of go on what Dave was saying, is permit to certainly get my heart kind of going, but it's such a fish in a lifetime that it's hard to kind of almost dedicate every time to go out fishing for them. Excuse me. So I don't know. It's hard to say. Kind of feeding milkfish on the surface, getting your fly in there, kind of getting a hook set and seeing it kind of tail walk. Milkfish for me are pretty awesome. That's kind of gets me going. Is milks.
Yeah, for me as well, the triggerfish. It drives me crazy as a fly tire, just when you thought you'd come up with the most perfect thing. It got eaten that day, you tie freaking 20 of them that night, you go back, all the guys was, what the heck are you talking about? And so back to the drawing board all the time, and then finally when you get this thing to eat, he can bite your hook in half, he can coral you, he can just snap your line. It's crazy how hard it is to catch that fish. It's quite special.
Yeah, obviously all of them, but the sheer brutality of a GT is something that you need to experience. I love fishing for them, even if, like, obviously sight fishing is like top of the list. Seeing a big fish, kind of placing the fly in the right spot and seeing him eat is awesome. But even just drifting and popping and not expecting that eat is something incredible. Definitely GT.
Big single bones and skinny water. Great fun, like on a nice spring drop, and you just see one little single coming down.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's got to be triggers. Yeah. I love those things. Like it's like Tommy says or Alex says. It's just they're such a visual fish to catch, and especially in skinny water when you just see the tail flap, gets into position. And the tail moves like 40
you're like walking on popcorn.
Walk again.
They're a weird fish. We always say that if triggers were a band, they'd be like Pink Floyd, right? Like early Pink Floyd. You know, they're just a trip for sure. But you know, we had Joseph send in a message talking about triggers and wants to know what size tippet you guys typically use for triggers.
I'd say
20.
20 if they're being particularly spooky. 20 pound with the bimini on top, that will do you fine.
Yeah, I think it also depends on destination. I mean, like on places that don't get fished that hard, like Bozeman, you can fish heavy, and you want to fish heavy because the thing is like Alec was saying, they're dirty. They'll bite through your line, they'll collar you. So you want to fish as heavy as you possibly can. I've heard of places where you have to be particularly light and fish things like 15 pound, but we would never do that. I mean, to fish 15 pound for trigger for us is ludicrous.
And the funny thing is on that same flat that they have rejected you, you think you've got the light leader, you throw a GT brush fly on a 120 pound
exactly.
mile,
Or a net.
triggerfish comes and eats it on a 120 pound test. You're like, well, that's a head scratch, you know, like what do you do about it? So
I think Stu's biggest fish has been on a brush fly. His biggest trigger has been on a
your
brush fly.
first
But that was
actually your first moustache dazzle.
It was all
it's like maybe
ultra technical.
yeah, just presentation. That's all it is.
Slap.
You know you can shave that moustache now.
That's perfect. So I can't read that. You're gonna have to just pass that in to me. Sorry, the light's a little weird. We just had a couple people. This is a good one. Anna Corfey and Alyssa Vinoski. You guys know these ladies? They want to know which of you are single. I don't know.
It's pretty single.
Okay, so yeah.
And Tommy's definitely single.
Tommy's
I'll take that back. Tommy's the most single out of all of us.
But another person wants to know if anyone's thrown the flip-flop fly for GTs lately.
No, I can't say I have lately. But it'll work, though. If it moves fast enough, it'll get eaten.
All right, so our friend Justin Ray, who's a guy down in the Keys, he just sent in a quick note, wanted to know about the blue water opportunities over there. Aside from the flats fishing, talk a little bit about the blue water.
Alec, do you want to go?
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's very far from where we start. It's about 5 minutes from the lagoon. We're in prime territory for fishing to sails, yellowfin, dogtooth, wahoo, you name it. So what's very unique about it is, you can get a bills and bones slant. You can catch a sailfish in the morning. After your morning session, hop onto the flats and catch bonefish. So everything's very close by. We catch a lot of them. I think our record this year was 10 in a day.
10 and a half a day.
10 sailfish and half a day.
Landed, not raised,
yeah.
Two doubles.
Yeah, so you can do it on fly or conventional, whatever you'd like to do. Occasionally we get these opportunities on our skiffs where you hook into, you find a big busting yellowfin shoal or something like that. So
that's fun.
it's we spend a lot of time out there because you never know what you're going to run in out there. It's quite cool.
And it's not like you're running 30 miles out.
No,
It's
no,
right off the flats.
It's literally on the crossing over. I mean, you have to go through the blue water to get to the flats, and it's like Alex says. It's literally you start fishing as you leave the mouth of the lagoon. It's maybe 200 meters before the water drops to 80 meters deep. So it goes from knee deep to next to nothing. You can't see the bottom within 50 meters, and that's where you're fishing. So
I've waved to someone that's done a surf walk. They're out there standing for GTs, and I'm like,
exactly. or if you're in a place like a stove, I mean, you can tell a story.
Yeah,
It's
so
crazy.
I remember the one day on a stove. It was a super low, spring low, kind of walking the kind of the famous wall of Estove, and it's quite honestly the best way for me to explain it is if the kind of the water subsided, it'll be looking kind of down the Grand Canyon. That's the kind of the visual kind of thing that you kind of got to keep in mind. And I was standing kind of right on the edge, and this sailfish was jumping like, within casting distance of your 12 boat.
You're on the flat.
I'm in knee deep water, standing right on the edge. I'm looking down into several hundred feet of water, right in front of me, and the sailfish is just kind of just eating garfish right in front of me, 20 meters in front of me, and it's ridiculous. There's also been a time where I've kind of been walking the edge on a spring low, but the tide has started to push. And kind of you get these kind of like little ocean swells that kind of roll onto the flat, and I could see fish coming on and kind of busting and eating all the little kind of coral fish that were there. So I kind of ushered the guest to kind of make a blind cast at the next time the swell went over, and he kind of did that, kind of strip, kind of got into a decent fish, took us back down. We stood to the end of kind of the edge of the wall, and we landed a dogtooth tuna on the flats. So that is
On the flats.
a dogtooth tuna on the flats. Yeah. So that's pretty insane. I don't know where else you can do it in the world.
I don't think you can.
No. So
Yeah.
it's pretty incredible.
That's pretty amazing. So
Yeah.
if you're just joining us, we're here with the guides from Alphonse Fishing Company. Make sure that you check out our different social media feeds, Instagram, Facebook. We've got the Seychelles Insider. It's a newsletter. You can sign up specifically for information about fishing in the Seychelles. Great trips, sometimes last-minute offers and specials. But check that out. Definitely sign up and stay in touch with what's going on in the Seychelles. We've got another question, and we've been talking a lot about triggers. We've talked about other species. Man, when you think about Seychelles, people immediately think GTs. Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about GTs. Got a lot of questions coming in right here. Everybody wants to know favorite flies for GTs, which is kind of a tough question. But, I mean, if you could take one fly, what's it going to be and
Ken's
why?
got the answer to that one.
So the best answer for that, which is I've been asked that question 100 times. The best answer that you can use kind of any color, any size, as long as it's black. So to kind of that kind of narrows it down. But to kind of get to more kind of seriousness, the GTs are so aggressive. They're so like angry. They're just constantly almost like pissed off. And if you kind of get a good shot in there, regardless of what kind of fly you have, as long as it's kind of moving pretty quickly, it's going to get eaten. Kind of color and size. It can kind of get a bit technical at times, but for the most part, it doesn't really matter as long as it's in the right place and moving pretty quickly.
I think what's more important about the pattern is your hook.
Definitely, absolutely.
So let's talk about that. We got some flies right here. Talking about GT hooks. You guys see a lot of people show up with flies that I'm sure are beautifully tied. They're super proud of them. They've been working all year, and you're like, yeah, man, that's a nice pattern, but that hook, no, not good.
No good at all. So
What are you looking for?
Big.
Yeah, big.
Bigger is better. We generally you can always downsize the size of your fly. I mean, Alec will be able to speak more about it than I can. But 8-0 is kind of what we're aiming at. That's the size of the hook.
8-0.
Exactly. And solid. I mean, I was in Bozeman a couple of years ago and walked through one of the fly shops out here, and I went through there. What I thought was a saltwater section, and I saw these huge flies. I was like, these are great saltwater flies, but the hooks are just too small. And I was told, no, those are for brown trout. I was like, you can throw that at a jeet happily and you'll eat it, but the hooks are too small. So the pattern itself is not important, but you want a strong gauge hook, something that's not going to open up on you. I mean, cost you the fish of a lifetime. So we generally tie on 8-0 Gamakatsus. That's the sort of stock standard that we tie on.
SL12.
SL12. That's the GT hook.
SC15 is also good and strong.
SC15.
Like a Tiemco 600 SP.
Yeah.
Pretty much those three.
The owner Aki as well is very good.
Yeah, the owner.
It's the size. As long as it doesn't bend out, we're very happy. We see a lot of mustads come through, or some of these other stainless hooks that they do this, and that's the last thing you want to do when you've hooked into a meter Jeep. You've got him, he's eating, you've got the fun part, and then
It's difficult to sort of pinpoint an exact pattern because you'll have times where we have this phenomenon that happens called rabbitfish that come through, these tiny little bait balls that come through, and it's a small little fish, and the jeets just go absolutely crazy for it. Other times you're throwing a 10 or fly, a big popper that Alec ties called the Reaper, that just makes a huge amount of noise, and it catches fish, but it's definitely more about the strength of your hook than the actual pattern itself. They'll want to eat anything that moves, really.
But we do, like you'd say as a general rule, we'd say light flies on the white sand.
Yeah.
And in the surf or the coral, we use darker patterns because it's more relative to the species that would live in the environment.
So you're matching the color of the fly to the bottom over which you're fishing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So white sand flats, lighter flies.
your grays, your whites.
How about if it's overcast? Do you typically go to a darker fly, or is it still match the bottom? Is that always the rule?
You'll be amazed at how far that fish will move if he really wants to eat that fly.
Yeah.
Sometimes like a bad cast is the best cast you can make, sort of thing. So I don't think it matters too much. He's got incredible eyesight. So.
The other thing you got to realize too is sometimes they just don't want to eat. You've seen this fish. You've worked really hard. You think you have the perfect fly. You've made the right distance cast. Fish just keeps going.
Yeah.
It happens, guys. Like
it does happen.
It doesn't matter what fly or what presentation. Maybe they just ate a 5-pound bonefish.
But I paid a lot of money. I'm curious. What's the deal? It's not like Disneyland.
I'll go try to find another one.
It's not a shopping market out there.
So that the answer to the GT question: 8/0 hooks,
Yep.
strong. Gamakatsu, TMCO owner, having the right hooks is everything, and then a variety of different colors.
It's crucial. That's absolutely
Crucial.
Yeah.
So another question we got came in from guy Michael, wants to know about kind of how a GT scenario unfolds. All right, clients out there, whether he's waiting or he's in the boat with you, you as the guide are likely going to spot that fish. Talk us through what's going to happen and what that presentation is going to look like.
Exactly what you're not expecting.
Always out of the glare and into the wind. That's where they always come from.
So if you're fishing with Tommy, being the guest, will probably spot the fish first.
It happens.
But it always seems the case that he's going to come into the wind or into the glare, and the guide's going to ask you to put a 60-foot cast, kind of get it out there and kind of be grumpy if you don't do it. But the typical kind of situation, I guess, is obviously, we get a lot of GTs on rays, stingrays on the bottom. We get a lot of GTs on sharks. Kind of there's certain hotspots around all the atolls that we kind of service, where a congregation of baitfish, mullet, bonefish, whatever kind of congregate. That's obviously kind of a magnet. So whenever I kind of want to go kind of GT fishing, I kind of really kind of focus in on those spots where there's bait, where there's food, there's going to be kind of GT. So you can kind of, in a sense, obviously kind of predict what's going to happen, and kind of hopefully you'll have enough time. So the guide will kind of see the fish, kind of point it out to the angler, and you wanting to put the fly ahead of that fish. You certainly don't want to put it on the head or behind it. And then just,
how far? What's the optimal?
So you're looking at about kind of 3 to 4 rod lengths. I always say when kind of on the water that rather kind of overlead than underlead. These fish are the apex predator on the flats. They have massive eyes. They can see these flies, as Stu said earlier, from a long way away. More often than not, I see guys that make the shot and they think it's too far and they pick up, and with that kind of pickup, they kind of it's just a nail in a coffin. It's just the worst thing you could do. Leave it there and just wait. Just wait. Whatever, or even just 1 or 2 strips. Get that fly kind of moving. Get the fish's attention, and once it's kind of closer, if you're kind of going to run out of retrieve, whatever, and then kind of once it's a bit closer, you can kind of start stripping again. But rather overlead than underlead, definitely. As I said, these fish have got fantastic eyesight. But it's that's in theory that's how it's going to work. You're going to have time and what have you, but it never happens like that. It's always quite a yelling match, and if you're lucky enough to kind of get the fly there accidentally, maybe you do it right, maybe you do it accidentally. I don't know, but it's not always it's not as kind of textbook or as slow as you would like to think it is.
And they cruise so quickly. I mean, normally from the second you see that fish, you've got under 10 seconds to get the fly, and that's being very generous. 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Normally it's like 5 seconds to get the fly from see the fish to where it needs to be.
So to interrupt you, someone was guiding a chap the other day, and they're on a surf walk, and they see this jeep kind of cruising in the waves, and he's telling me, look, just the other day we were discussing it, and you kind of told him to make the shot, and he stopped to clean his glasses.
Yeah.
I don't know who was with it. It was an invitational week, maybe not. Maybe
that was Ollie's story.
Exactly.
Was it right?
No name's Benji.
It probably was right.
No, it was
South African. You can say it was South African.
South African. You see the jeep. It's like, okay, jeep, 1 o'clock over here, 60 foot. And the guy just picks off his glasses, starts cleaning them. It's got a little platypus tube. He's like having a couple of sips, and I'm like, no, jeep, now.
Got no time.
Yeah, you
I think
my
my favourite comment from guests is when you find a jeep and you start charging over, and they're like, just wait. And you're like, there's no time to wait, buddy. The fish is not going to wait for you. You got to go. You got to hit it.
And I think a lot of the time, as the guy said, you're very limited on time, but often, even though you're not looking for that jeet, you might be fishing a school of bones, you might be walking the fingers for triggers, that thing will sneak up on you. Like, you've got to be ready 24/7 just to grab that 12 weight and make a shot, whatever.
You'll never see an experienced guy leave his boat without the top.
Never.
No matter where you're fishing.
Even if it's dry.
Even if it's dry.
And
you know you can see it.
comes and explodes everything.
Even when Ollie dries out a skiff, he still takes he still takes the 12 weight out.
One bomb.
So, what happens? Okay, a client gets it out there, fish surge, eats the fly. What happens next? For those that haven't caught a GT before, what's the first 20 seconds of a GT eat look like?
So first you got to pray. You got to kind of say kind of a prayer to kind of hopefully that'll kind of get into the corals, and kind of hopefully it'll kind of come off you.
The line just goes like spaghetti.
It doesn't. It's just so many times that line that fish is peeling off so hard that the line is going to jump up and wrap around something that's hanging off your body.
It's not even 20 seconds, Jim.
Important thing.
It's
5 seconds. And
it happens like lightning. And like Stu says, I mean, you've got guys will strip out 60 foot of line, and that fish eats the fly at your rod tip. So you got a whole pile of line, and the first thing that's going to happen is you're still looking for your line. The fish has already eaten the fly, and all of a sudden it's like and the line just goes everywhere. So it happens in a hot.
But saying that as well is like we've all lost a lot of fish where the fish eats and they set and they hold on, and that fish kind of swims towards you a little bit because we're fishing barbless. That hook falls out so easily. So it goes both ways. Like sometimes you're just going to eat and book out. Other times you just got to keep stripping. Just keep tension on the fish.
Yeah. Clear your line, and then when the line's clear, tighten the drag, then lift the rod.
But it's the longest 20 seconds of your life. It happens in a flash, but it just feels like forever. It's the craziest.
When
sensation.
Dave first started guiding at Alphonse, his hair was all brown. Now he's got a lot of grey hairs coming through the side.
That's the stress. The stress of jeet fishing.
Jeet
You
fishing
won't
is
believe.
pretty stressful.
Yeah.
It's hard work.
I know we all have sweaty palms right now.
Yeah.
Just
I want to go make a shot.
Well, we got a question. Tim Himshaw is watching right now. He's got a question for you guys. I think this would be a quick one to answer. There are a couple places in the world right now, in the world of saltwater fishing, where people are chumming for GTs. And he wants to know if there's any chumming that goes on in the Seychelles.
Absolutely not.
No.
Straight up, absolutely not.
Zero. Yeah.
$50 maybe.
I mean, even
See where it goes.
No, absolutely not.
No.
That's always been a big thing. Is GT fishing done right, done organically.
Yeah.
I think we pride ourselves on like our fisheries management, and that's one big thing.
even as far as when we're fishing on our blue water operations, targeting sailfish and wire and stuff, we don't come in too shallower than 60 meters from the reef, just to keep those as pristine as possible. Obviously, every now and then we do get a bit of a bycatch, but most of the time those fish are staying in the shadows. So we try and preserve it as much as possible.
And you don't need to. I mean, the GTs are so healthy over there. They're going to eat organically. So that's a good question. Thanks for the question, Tim, and good clarification on that. So again, if you're just joining us, my name is Jim Klug with Yellow Dog Fly Fishing Adventures. I'm with Dave, Tommy, Cam, Alec, Stu, and Ollie, all guides from Alphonse Fishing Company. We're taking your questions. Be sure to register for the Seychelles Insider, which is a newsletter where we share all kinds of great information about the Seychelles, upcoming trips, cool opportunities, new introductions, specials, things like that. We're taking your questions. Fire them over, whether it's on text, email, or if you want to post them live on Facebook. I got a couple more I got to read out. Craig Schmidt says he wants PBR. He's looking at this. He likes that.
Me too.
I see Joanne Ribideau says hello. She says hi from Bozeman. So,
Right on.
yeah, I know she's been out there many times. Thanks for watching, Joanne. Let's see. Alex Ford says, Ollie, you're a legend. Chris Bamford says, tell Cam I said hey, and he wants to know who won the photo contest this year.
No, that hasn't been resulted just yet. But I'll shortly let Chris know. Thank you.
Yeah, so let's see. Somebody asked about length of trip. Josh Frazier called, just texted and said, how long do most people stay when they come? What do you guys recommend? It's a long way to get there. Josh wants to know about kind of the optimal trip length.
I think especially for guys from the States, Canada, this side of the world, you want to be looking at doing 2 weeks, because the first week you get that minimum 2 days of travel. You've got jet lag. You might, not be on your A game
You
the
sort
whole
of
time.
burn 2 days, just kind of getting
Adapting.
into the swing. And Jim, you'll know all about it because you've been out there a couple of times, and it's hard on you when you've been traveling for so long, and you land on the Saturday. It's tackle set up on the Saturday. Sunday morning, you're in the water, you're fishing, and you could get out there, and your first shot is going to be at your trophy fish. So it's hard work, and if you blow that, you want to give yourself a bit of extra time. And I think what a lot of guys do is they might mix it up with their destination. They might say, okay, cool, let's do something a little bit more extreme, head down to places like a Stove or Cosmo. That's a little bit more out there, it's a bit more rugged, and a bit more hard work, but come back and have a little bit more of a leisure experience on somewhere like Alphonse, where there's a nice comfortable lodge, there's a bar every night that you can go and sit around the pub. A lot more comfortable, but the fishing is just as good, but you sort of worked yourself into it. So definitely, if you're coming from this side of the world, 2 weeks is a good option. Places closer to home for us anyway, like South Africa, it's a hop, skip and a jump and you're there.
I think even if you're only doing a week and you're able to just have a couple of days beforehand in Mahe, just recovering from
head out
jet
earlier.
lag.
Head out earlier.
It doesn't matter about after, who cares? You've done your week, but just have, if you can, have a bit of time recovering from the journey.
I think on the way there, sorry, Tommy, I'm going to plug Nick Bowles at Ocean Active. I mean, you can break it up and go via Dubai and fish with him. That'll be...
And that's a stopover on your way there, and then get your eye and mess up your shots there. Come back and catch a couple of fish.
You heard it, Nick.
I think the benefits of doing 2 weeks is that you should get 2 different sets of tidal phases.
That's also true.
So, I mean, you get there on a spring, and let's say you don't want to do a massive walk and you have to stay inside the lagoon, it's a bit tough. You get the neeps the next week, and you can spend the whole week inside fishing for triggers and whatever you want. So having that option as well will help you a lot in your fishing, and you'll get a different experience from both weeks in the same atoll.
So let's talk a little bit about equipment. We're getting a lot of people that are firing in questions right now about gear. We've got some gear. We talked earlier with you guys, just kind of kicking it around about key pieces of equipment. Obviously, one key piece of equipment: sunglasses.
Yeah.
What are your guys' thoughts on sunglasses? What do you like?
Costas I think we all use Costas, and they just seem to kind of last. They don't scratch, but besides that, they kind of really have this kind of polarizing that I've personally seen. And all the variety of different lenses that they have kind of covers all different kind of scenarios. So you'll have kind of, obviously you need a certain kind of lens for sunny days, or for overcast days, or for low light conditions, and they'll kind of cater for all those kind of needs. And it's crucial to have more than one pair on you. Always kind of keep a spare pair on the in your backpack. Being out there, sometimes it is a bit windy. Sometimes the fish do kind of change direction. You need to kind of change your casting direction, and you see it quite often where you're fishing a heavy beaded or a heavy weighted fly, and it does kind of hit your lenses and kind of crack them. And if that happens during the beginning of the day, you're gonna be buggered for the rest of the day.
Bring a second pair with you.
Bring a second pair, and obviously it's good to.
What's your go-to lens? What color do you guys like? All around.
Green mirror.
580 green mirror. These puppies right here.
Amber or copper.
Amber with the green mirror. It's a go-to. It's awesome to have low lights though, something like a yellow or a pink. Because like we were saying earlier, it's not always brochure sunny skies. It's the Seychelles can get pretty miserable. You can get a lot of rain, overcast conditions, and
you're still fishing.
You're still fishing, and you still are. That's not going to stop you from getting on the water. But what's going to stop you fishing is if you can't see fish, you can't make the shot. So definitely have a spare pair. And the other side of it as well, you don't have any here, but having a lanyard on your glasses, like Alec has there, because if you lose your glasses, I'm not giving you mine.
So you will get archive.
Exactly. So you carry at least 2 pairs of glasses on you, whether they be 2 different shades, but definitely 2 on you.
Something that fits your face too. Kind of light pollution from the sides can really hinder your visibility. Even with something that's tight fitting, I have to squint with how bright it is out there. It is crazy how bright that white sand gets. So get something that fits well, and then that 580 it's very hard to beat. That's what all our guides want.
So let's talk other key pieces of equipment, wading boots. Pass some of those over here, Dave. So one of the things that surprised me the first time I went to the Seychelles is that you guys don't mess around with footwear. I mean, you have heavy duty boots. There's some different options out there. Pass the little thin ones over there too. So this is like a neoprene zip up bootie that's pretty popular in places like the Bahamas, where things are pretty mellow, right, as far as wading goes. What do you think about this in the Seychelles?
You can get away with it. It's always the guides kind of, if you kind of go on a kind of a bonefish mission, you absolutely not, you cannot go barefoot at all.
Yeah.
But if you're kind of going on a white sanded bone fishing kind of session, these are perfect. But for the most part, probably not. You're probably going to need something. You're probably going to need something a bit more rugged than this. Yes, definitely.
So the soles have to be pretty key.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, you got coral, you got sea urchins, you got all that stuff, but you guys also have some nasty stuff over there you don't want to step on.
No.
Yeah, you don't be stepping on a stonefish or a cone shell or something like that. And that's definitely those. Yeah, I mean, look, heavier boots makes for tougher wading, but they're going to help you. The last thing you want to lose out there is your feet. That's the one thing that's going to keep you fishing throughout the week. So you got to look after your feet, and something looking at wearing gaiters so that you don't get
down there.
So definitely, like getting sand or something into your foot, getting chafe, it'll put you down straight away. So these are essential, definitely, and a good pair of boots, absolutely essential.
You got ankle support, you got protection on the soles and on the sides, pair of socks, pair of boots, and then the gravel cuffs wrapped around the top.
Yep.
That's pretty much what you guys go with every day.
Every
Ankle
single day.
support is big.
A good sock, like a neoprene sock, is going to help a lot as well.
Yeah.
You get away with cotton or whatever, but neoprene is definitely more comfortable.
I think especially for the guys like Stu and Dave can tell you much more, but spending time on Cosmo where you have that really sharp coral, I mean, if you go there even for a week or two, you want to have the best boots.
Yeah, I mean,
you're going to get hurt.
we go through, out there you'll go through 2-3 boots a season, easily, and that's just because how rugged it is. So a pair of booties, you'll get away with it walking on the sand, fishing with bonefish and stuff, and they're comfortable. And often guys will have 2 pairs of boots on them, just because they are a lot more comfortable and a lot more light walking. But if you're going to be walking anything that has any sort of coral, definitely a solid pair of boots.
Solid.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
What other key pieces of equipment? We've got somebody, let's see, Chris Bamford just sent in a question wanting to know about reels, especially for GTs. Talk about reels.
Solid drag system.
Yeah. The drag is absolutely crucial for GTs. But if you can't stop that fish, I mean, it's a pretty tough fish. It's super powerful. It is going to kind of look for a piece of coral or kind of go over the edge. And if you can't, if your reel doesn't have the ability to stop it, you're gonna struggle. So, I mean, we've got a kind of a Charlton over here. That's obviously quite an old one, but it's still the Rolls Royce of this is the one.
Yeah.
This is it. This has got a kind of the stopping power to stop a freight train, which is what you kind of literally need. But hatches work, fantastic. They kind of stop fish. It's very common reels that we see out there, and those are very adequate.
So you've got Charlton, Hatch, Nautilus, Able, Tibor. There's some Mako, Shiltons. I mean, basically what you're saying is don't skimp on your reel.
No,
spend good money on your reel.
It's the one thing you don't want to skimp on is your reel. You don't want to rock up there with your salmon reel that you've been using for the last 35 years. That's not what you're going to do. You're going to get out there, you're going to lose a fish of a lifetime because you're not going to be able to stop that fish within the first 60 yards of his run. You want to
and your reel's going to blow up.
He's going to, and I've seen it. We've all seen it happen. We've all seen reels literally smoke, seize up, gone, fly line broken, fish gone. So your reel is definitely not where you want to skimp when it comes to GT fishing. Yeah,
but a couple things with especially a sealed drag system. First thing is we want to see that the spool locks onto the frame. That's a big thing. If it's one of these pop-on things, you're going to hook up onto a GT and there goes your spool, and now you've got a whole other set of problems. So that's first. Second is the frames on these sealed drags. They have to be well designed. Hatch is a great example. If they're poorly done, these are going to flex with the amount of pressure we're going to put onto it, and now you're going to get scraping and all sorts of friction, and it's not good. So just really pay attention, spend the money. It's well worth it.
But even when we speak about like the big reels, the Jeet stuff, I think it's important to have good reels for bonefish, triggers, permit.
Smooth drag.
I mean, smooth drag. You get that startup inertia on a permit, and it just goes twing, and it's official a lifetime's gone.
It's heartbreaking. And a real, I think that a lot of us, fish out there as South Africans, and I think guys that are kind of getting on the bandwagon now. Something like a Shilton for us is our sort of the AK-47s of fly reels. You can treat that thing like dirt, dunk it in the sand, keep it in the water for as long as you want, take it out, give it a quick rinse, and she's good to go again. You know, it's the most reliable reel that I've fished with anyway. Something that you can, as guides, we don't treat our gear very well. And it is
Well,
the one
notice
reel,
that if they're on the pro staff, you just heard it right there.
it's the one reel that keeps on going.
Well, they get tested pretty well.
Yeah, exactly.
By us.
Yeah.
You'll see every guide uses a cork drag. It's just because we can maintain it.
Out there, closed drags are for us anyway.
For over a
So
long
let's
period
say
of
9 months.
But look after cork drags as well. I remember the perm with you, Tommy, and the cork drag. The guy had obviously stored it cranked up for about 4 years.
Compressed it.
And it was just
Horrible.
and
What
you're
noise
like,
did it make?
I don't know.
So you were just talking about reels. You also mentioned fly lines for a sec, Dave. I mean, lines are important. You see guys that'll come with all different kinds of fly lines.
Sure.
I've seen clients show up with brand new reel, the right reel, and then they're like, well, I had this 9-weight fly line that's practically new. I use it steelhead fishing. I'll just take that for bonefish.
Yeah.
Or,
Look, I mean, it goes without saying that the Seychelles is it's the tropics. It's hot all the time, so you can't come out there with a cold water fly line. It's literally going to melt on you. It's no good. So you want something that's got at least a 50-pound core. If you're fishing for GTs, that is. I mean, if you're talking GTs, you want something with a strong core. And something that can withstand the heat of the tropics. That's the biggest thing. I think more so than the fly lines itself, because you got to marry that your rod with your line, because guys have different casting styles, different rods have different actions. You got to load your rod up with the right type of line.
I think you're going to be throwing something.
Exactly. So you need to be able to. I think more important than the fly line itself though is your backing. We get a lot of guys that we get a lot of guys that come out there that are great saltwater fishermen. They've been, they've spent their lives fishing for tarpon and that sort of thing. And that's all well and good. Maybe you're catching that fish and it's white sand for days. We're fishing in rugged terrain, lots of coral, coral heads, bommies, that kind of thing. We want to fish things like 80-pound core braid. That's not going to, it can run through the coral and you're good. It's going to hold up to that. I think we get a lot of guys that come out there and we've had days where we have a tackle setup that lasts for 3 hours because you've got to strip the entire, 500-600 yards of backing off and re-spool it with backing braid, 80-pound braid that they left their local fly shop, and the guy said, well, look, that'll be fun. You catch tarpon on your 30-pound Dacron, that should do the trick.
Dacron is
it's no good. It's no good. You've got to load that thing up. Be ready for it, because you're going to lose the fish of a lifetime and half your gear because you haven't got the right backing on there, and that's going to cost you.
Absolutely.
Every guide already carries a spare fly line, expecting it to happen. It happens so often. If you think about it, we're fishing between 100 and 130 pound leader to 100-pound core line or 70 to 100-pound core line. Now you're going to show up with 30-pound background backing.
And if a fish takes you into the backing, you want to land it. You want to land that fish if it's taken in the backing. But you've got a full list of the correct gear on Yellow Dog, right? On Yellow Dog. So, kind of look at that. Kind of do research. I know Alphonse, on our website, we've got exactly what it needs, and it's not there just for namesake. It's there for a reason. And you've got
Don't be afraid to reach out to any one of us. I mean, rather come prepared than try and figure it out when you get there. So.
And we'll give a shameless plug for that. Of course, when you do book a trip with Yellow Dog, you get a super detailed, very comprehensive pre-trip planning guide. It's about almost 40 pages.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have been out there enough. You've experienced it yourself.
You know exactly
what
it talks all about what you need for your trip, how to plan, what to expect, but it goes into great detail on gear and equipment, what to pack. I mean, right down to the questions like what type of line and what type of backing, and it gets into a lot of detail on this. So, obviously, a service we provide when you book through Yellow Dog. Again, if you're just joining us, we're here with the guides from Alphonse. All 6 of them that are out here in Montana for a couple of weeks, taking a little break from the salt and fishing our rivers and streams of smoky Montana here in August, but definitely torturing our fish and harassing all the women. So that's it's been fun having these guys out here. Keep firing your questions away. We've got a couple more that have come in. Let's see. Marion Pinto asked, "What reel is it?" Dave, you said it was the AK-47. That was the Shilton reel we were talking about. Shilton reel.
SL6 and SL7.
Yeah, it's a South African made reel.
here's a good quick question from James Yates. James, thanks for commenting. He wants to go around quickly, say, best place to go for GTs and milkfish and bonefish and bumpies all in one place.
I would say Cosmo, excluding the bumpies, including bumpies, somewhere like Providence, I'd say.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Well said.
Yeah. If we're gonna put bumpies in the equation, yes.
Yeah, you're pretty much looking at Providence and Farquhar.
Yeah.
If you're talking about bumpies.
If you're talking GTs, Cosmo for sure.
Oh, every GTs, milks, permits, triggers, whatever.
And right now, that's worth mentioning. There's basically 6 destinations in the Seychelles. You got Alphonse, Farquhar, Cosmo, Estove, Providence, and Poivre.
That's it.
Those are the 6 options you have when you go to the Seychelles. We love it because we book them all. You guys have worked at a lot of them. Collectively, you've probably been to just about every one of those places.
Yeah, I've been to all of them except Prov.
Yeah.
Except for Providence. And they're kind of each kind of atoll has got their own kind of unique kind of environment or unique kind of habitat. To kind of touch on Poivre, that is by far the permit capital of the Seychelles, hands down. I've lost count at kind of making shots at 60 different tailing permit on the flats, in one day. But you're not going to really kind of get into your triggers. There's a fair number of bonefish, but if you wanted to go to permit, kind of target permit, certainly Poivre. If you're wanting to do kind of GTs, certainly Cosmo, Stove, Farquhar, Providence, they all kind of have large number of GTs. Obviously, kind of Alphonse has a good number, but Alphonse just covers all kind of everything. Just says everything besides the bumpies. Yeah.
Just when we talk about, sorry, Jim.
No,
when we
please.
talk about Alphonse is the base, but we travel from Alphonse to Saint Francois Atoll. That's the name of the atoll that we're fishing.
That we're going to be fishing.
And one of the things, we get a lot of questions from people who've never gone to the Seychelles before. We're pretty big fans of Alphonse because it's like, listen, go to the Alphonse, you're going to love it. I mean, aside from marginal guides, no, it's got everything. I mean, you got phenomenal amenities, accommodations, food. It's the nicest of anything in the Seychelles.
Absolutely.
But on top of that, I mean, it's just a great first taste of the Seychelles. You've got everything there. I mean, all the species are there. You guys have got that place so dialed. You're going out every day and finding just about everything. And if you were going to start in one place in the Seychelles, that's not a bad place to start.
I would recommend it. If you've never kind of been if you've never been on a saltwater trip, Alphonse is a place to start. Absolutely, you're going to be blown away by what's on offer. It'll be good to kind of test your kind of abilities and to kind of see where you stand. In kind of making the shots. But Alphonse is certainly fantastic to kind of if you want to kind of get into Alphonse, Seychelles, Alphonse, there you go.
But also in that same note, it also carries some of the biggest fish of all the atolls.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This year we caught 138 centimeter
We
on the
caught
flats.
some beasts.
I think on average our biggest fish have come from Alphonse.
Alphonse, yeah. Our
And
biggest cheats in particular.
Absolutely.
Cheats in particular. Yeah,
No way.
cheats in particular.
Yeah.
On average, the numbers might not be there, but it's not as if they're not there. They're certainly going to have shots throughout the week. But throughout the destinations that we operate out of, Alphonse certainly has the biggest, on average, the biggest size-wise of GTs. Yeah.
You think they're there because there's 9 trillion bonefish that live there?
This is also-
This is also
But
right,
I think what makes Alphonse unique as well is that definitely if it's your first time either saltwater fishing or just the Seychelles, is that aside from the fishing, it's ultra comfortable. The lodge itself is incredible. The food and the service is unreal, and the vibe around the place is just great. You're going to the bar. You're not sort of isolated by yourself, sitting down, by yourself. The guards go to the bar. It's a very social sort of environment, and it just makes you feel, I think, a lot more easy. And you can sit around and talk about the day's fishing or talk about the next day's fishing at the bar. And even if you can't make a 15-foot cast, we're going to sit around there and talk you up about it anyway, and have a good time around the bar anyway. It's a great place to kick it off with, absolutely.
I think we've just not to interrupt. I think we've already established that Stu officially has the smallest bladder now.
Yeah.
I think Alphonse as well. It's one of a few destinations in the Seychelles you can bring a partner.
Yeah.
It's a
Like
family deal.
it's not just obviously the fishing is the focus of what we're talking about, but there's a lot of other activities. And if you do go and your partner doesn't fish, it's not a problem. it's still an epic holiday regardless. There's diving's spectacular, and there's just there's a heap of other things to go at. So.
And there's a lot of guides who've been stuck there for 9 months.
Yeah.
That are all missing
Exactly.
their girlfriends, so they appreciate it when you bring your significant other.
We would like to see other faces other than the guys sitting across from each other. Right?
That's perfect. So Yaku actually sent in a serious comment, which is nice. Yaku, thanks. He said, one question that comes up a lot, especially with the out islands of the Seychelles, is the pirate issue. And somebody went and made a movie about the pirates out there. Confluencefilms.com. Check it out. Great movie.
Hashtag Yellow Dog.
Hashtag Yellow Dog, Confluence Films. But in all seriousness, I mean, that was an issue in 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
Talk about the safety factor in the Seychelles right now. We actually at Yellow Dog, we get that question a lot.
So do we,
Especially on Alphonse, since it's a land-based operation, I don't think there's ever been a problem. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No.
It's far away from the shipping lane, so 2009 up till now, there's been virtually nothing.
Safe.
It's
been
safe.
pretty safe.
It's
So
a
it was kind of closed for I think for 5 years due to the piracy. It obviously was a serious issue, and the Seychelles government kind of banned all boat activities, mostly towards the outer islands, so Estove, Cosmo, Farquhar, Prov, all those kind of atolls. But as soon as it opened up, kind of we had our foot in the door, and we were out there, and kind of, I'm not gonna, pioneering is not the right word because it had already been kind of pioneered already. But since the ban was lifted, when we went out there, we had we had kind of armed guards and what have you on the first season or expedition out there, and every season from then, it's just been the threat or the kind of the anticipation of pirates has just kind of dwindled massively to an extent where we now don't even operate with kind of armed guards on the Cosmo section, because obviously we fly into Estove, so we don't need them at all.
And no one's in Somalia is watching this Facebook.
No,
Funny. No, but in all seriousness, that brings up a great point. And what we saw when we made the movie, we went over there, we interviewed the Seychelles vessel, protection detachment and all that. Yeah. What happened in 2009 and 2010 was kind of like the perfect storm. Nobody expected it, so it was effective for a short period of time. Yeah. And then what happened is you had the U.S., Russian, French, Indian navies. They all came down to protect their shipping lanes. They're like, wow, what a great opportunity for some live fire practice.
Yeah.
And well, there goes the problem. It went away pretty quickly, and it has been completely safe since then. But it is, it's a question we get a lot. People remember the Captain Phillips movie, and that kind of thing, the Maersk, Alabama. And we get asked, but it's there has been no incidents over there. It's been totally safe, and certainly you guys wouldn't be operating, and we wouldn't be sending clients over there if it was an issue. And so that just goes to
a number of these islands too have put up radars, so
they know what's going
surveilled 24/7, and there's a lot of different countries that have vested interest into this. It's become such a destination now. If this were to happen again, it would cripple. So all these different navies are now on board, and
exactly. I think the waters are pretty heavily patrolled. We don't particularly see them, but like you say, there are radar stations on places like Estove and Alphonse, and that kind of covers us pretty well. And there's nothing really going on. In the 4 years that I've been there, I've never heard of any incident since. So no, we're pretty good out there. Yeah.
So another question just came in. They quickly just want to know where all you guys are from. I know we said at the beginning of the program, but they want to hear one more time.
Sure. Dave from South Africa.
Tom from the Czech Republic.
Yeah, Cam from South Africa, Durban.
Alec from Berkeley, California.
Stu from Pietermaritzburg, South Africa.
Ollie from southeast of England.
Southeast.
Whereabouts?
Southeast.
What's the name of the place?
Norfolk.
Be
There
more
you go.
specific.
Norwich and Norfolk.
There we go.
So we had Hiram, who just sent a question in a little bit earlier. Cam, this is a good one for you because you used to go out on Farquhar.
Correct.
He wants to know, he says he's always wanted to land a bumphead parrotfish, which I think we can all agree is like the weirdest fish on the planet. What flies and tactics do you use to catch these fish? Do you use crab patterns, shrimp patterns? What pound test? What do you like for bumpies?
So what the guys are getting, a lot of them are your typical kind of spawning shrimps. We're getting a lot of, they got a lot of there on Farquhar. and also you kind of your paler kind of crab pattern. So your kind of your white or your grey kind of merkin crabs work great. You know, you see the thing is with bumpies, they're not at all kind of predatory fish. You know, they kind of eat coral, which doesn't move that quickly at all. So you know, you really kind of got to get your kind of fly right within their kind of feeding zone. They've got super small eyes. So you know, it's a lot of kind of repetitive kind of casting, getting your fly into the zone. You wanting to fish, you know, 25 to 30 pound seagull premium is what we would use mostly. That's a kind of a very kind of strong test. Seagull, yeah, seagull premium, and again, it's just it's such a powerful fish. It's like they've been kind of called the buffalo of the flats, because once they kind of get going, and they most of the time they're in quite a tightly packed shoal, and if the shoal moves off, the fish that you've hooked is going to move off with him, and it's not going to stop. So everything, your gear has to be completely kind of perfect, as we kind of touched on earlier. You know, your leader, your fly line, your backing, you know, everything, your reel, your drag system. Your guard is probably going to have to be pretty athletic to kind of be running this fish down, to keeping it on the flats, and it's a tough fish. It's a tough fish to land. You certainly hook a lot more than you land. So don't get despondent if you kind of keep breaking off or losing it. You're not supposed to stop that fish on 30-pound line. It's a lot of that fish has to do a lot of things wrong, and you have to do a lot of things right to land that fish.
And then the great glory of bumpies is when you do finally bring it all together, you finally land that fish, you bring it in, you give it a big hug, and it just craps all over you.
I used to actually guard with an apron in my backpack, so I used to kind of put it
like, here it comes.
So, I used to kind of like you kind of like put this apron on the guest and kind of get ready for the photo.
Oh, they're going to put it on yourself.
No,
full service.
I don't touch it at all. I just hand in the leader. Like, here we go. Deal with it. No, it can be pretty messy, and it's got a certain pungent aroma to it. Absolutely.
It's a bizarre fish. If you're watching and you don't know what a bumphead parrotfish is, go to the yellowdogflyfishing.com website. Check out the Provenance page, the Farquhar page.
Yeah.
You'll see a lot of these bizarre Dr. Seuss looking green and blue fish with big bolt cutters and a big red obscene thing on their forehead. So check it out. You can check it out. And on that note, all of these destinations that we're talking about in the Seychelles, Alphonse, Farquhar, Providence, Estove, Cosmolito, Poivre, all of these pages are at the Yellow Dog site. You can go on there. You can check out best time of season, species available, all this information, how to get there, what the accommodations are going to be. It's a great resource for researching and planning a trip. Also, make sure that you sign up for the Seychelles Insider newsletter. Again, we share a ton of information, all kinds of news and techniques, and you're going to see these guys in the months ahead on their little video clips and their secret behind-the-scenes guide advice on how to have a successful trip. Another question came in. Oh, actually, before we do that, this just popped in. Maddie Majoran says, hands on head. Yeah.
Oh, Jim, I think you bag it, Jim.
Well, I did. Yeah, let's pass that. But everyone needs to reload here a little bit. But another question that we get a lot has to do with casting in the wind. And the wind's not a bad thing where you guys, I mean, what you really kind of hate are dead calm, stagnant, hot days. So let's talk a little bit about casting in the wind and how people can kind of get ready for their Seychelles trip and prepare for it.
So, yeah, if you've been with us the whole time, we did say, GTs and permit, they like to present themselves into the wind. Yes, okay. At the same time, our atolls are circular, so we can always kind of orient ourselves if it's a very strong wind to be casting either cross or downwind. That being said, let's say we have a windy situation. It's a good idea to practice with the wind, okay? In your backyard with no wind at all, with a little 5 weights, probably not going to do it for you. Pick up that 10 weight or pick up that 12 weight on a crappy day out there and start chucking it. And we're gonna
with a fly as well. Don't do it without a fly.
Yeah, with a fly, absolutely.
Just cut the end of the hook off.
Yeah.
It sounds weird, but sometimes it's actually good to practice kneeling down, because most of the time you're not standing.
You're
on
sort
your
of waist deep in the water.
and you've got to have, especially with 12, quite a high back cast. So it's
Yeah, and so I mean, again with the lines, it really will kind of meet up to your personal preference with your rod and everything. Is like I'll fish a heavier headed line just so I know I can punch a big fly even into the wind if I need to, and also make a quick recovery to make another shot if I need to. Some of these very short headed lines, you have to sit there and strip it in really quick before you can make another cast. I like to be able to recover and make a shot in a moment's notice.
Yeah. But the biggest thing you guys have been talking about all night is practicing.
Yeah.
And we've had a bunch of comments come in about that. It's like, don't show up after you've just traveled halfway around the planet, and the first time you're going to cast that new 9-weight or that new 12-weight is when you're standing in the boat or on the flats.
And particularly a 12-weight.
Yeah,
particularly a 12-weight, because it's a different animal. It's not like going from picking up a 5-weight where you've been drifting down the Yellowstone, for the whole season, having little roll casts and stuff. It's not like going from a 5-weight to a 9-weight, because that's a similar kind of cast. But going from a 9-weight to a 12-weight is a completely different animal. Yeah. It's a broomstick. It's a beast of a thing to cast. Yeah. So for the wind, like we had that comment, how do you, casting into the wind is practice your double haul big time. That's the biggest thing. And when you got a fish coming into the wind, don't shoot any line. Get your distance in the air. So you're punching your line in the air, and then just drop the fly. Don't try and shoot any more line, because this is going to blow straight back at you. Yeah. So that's the biggest thing we can always say. We tell it to every guest is practice before you get out there. Just pick up the stick. And
even something like if you've got your double haul down and you can cast the 12-weight on your strong side, get technical and try and maybe make a back cast.
Yeah.
You never know where that fish is going to come from.
Back cast.
Yeah.
Back cast. Like, I mean,
that fish is going to surprise you from all angles.
Go for casting lessons. Don't if you feel that you sort of aren't quite as competent as you'd like to be, spend a little bit of extra bucks. Go for casting. Learn how to back cast. I think that's probably one of the other biggest casts that guys come out there and you say back cast, and they kind of they start doing a ballerina dance, and they don't know what you're talking about.
Olympic sport. It's called ribbon dancing.
Yeah, it's exactly. Turn around. Learn how to back cast. I think that's probably because, like Alex said, that fish is not always going to come downwind of you with the wind coming off your left shoulder. He's going to come out of the wind blowing straight into you, and the last thing you're going to be doing is casting a fly and an 8-0 yap in the air coming straight past your face. Learn how to do a proper back cast, and that's going to make the world of difference. It's going to change your
safety reasons as well.
Yeah,
and less false casts as well. Like just learn to
load the rod.
To get the fly there. It doesn't need to be a long cast, but just get it there with less false casts. Especially with the 12.
For the Americans that are tuning in, they're saying cast.
Cast.
Cast. Just clarify that if you guys are having a hard time.
Do we need subtitles? People are like, they look like they know what they're talking about, but I'm confused as hell. That's perfect. So,
one question at all, Cam. They didn't pick up on the mic at all.
We're now a little past an hour into our session here, drinking some beers, enjoying this beautiful Bozeman, Montana evening, and we're seeing who has the smallest bladder here and who has to crack in the middle of the deal. So, but we're here. We're taking your questions. Keep firing them at us. The feed, I think, is still working, right, Mike? It's still going. We've got a couple people that were having trouble getting on, but if you can't see it, feel free to send it in via Instagram or info@yellowdogflyfishing. That'll work as well. Good old-fashioned email. We did have another question, and Alex, this might be a good one for you. Seychelles is a big trip. It's not cheap, and we had a question from John who wanted to know: are there any affordable ways to visit or fish the Seychelles, or times of year where that might be better?
Unfortunately, not. These islands are not a do-it-yourself kind of situation. They are, privately operated. So if you want to come to Alphonse, you have to come through us. There's no situation where you can kind of fly in and set up a hammock and kind of bum around. Unfortunately, that's not how it goes. But the other side of things, on our side, we love that it's just ours. We get out there, we know it's just our team. So that's kind of where it stands, unfortunately. It is a lot of money, but it's well worth it. It's a trip of a lifetime, and every single guest that comes away from that will agree with me there.
And that we talked about the 6 different Seychelles operations that are possible. That's that way at all 6.
Yes, that's correct.
There's really no DIY fishing yourself there. The other thing is that, and this is important to note, is all of these operations sell out every year. A few years ago, you used to be able to kind of go on shoulder seasons, maybe find some deals. Now, I mean, bookend to bookend, the season sells out, and it sells out quickly. We're already at Cosmo looking at 19.
19,
I mean, 18 is pretty much gone. 17 fall is certainly gone. So one piece of advice about the Seychelles is don't wait. If you know you're going to want to go there, it may be 2 years from now, but book it now because it's crazy how popular it is right now.
And the most common question I know I get, and I know all these get, what's the best time of year to come? Okay, it's a 9-month season, and it's a 9-month season for a reason. Each and every month, each and every day, you have that chance of having the best day of your life or of the season.
Yeah.
So if that opportunity arises that you're interested, don't overthink it. If you are looking to get there soon, book that. Don't overthink it. Just come, and you're going to have an amazing time. You might have a weather day or two, but guess what? Those also produce, or the very next day it can be just...
We fishing pretty much anything. There's a couple of times we don't fish, but for the most part.
Yeah, rain or shine. I mean, you guys.
Yeah, we out there.
That's the deal, and you're getting fish.
Absolutely, yeah. My favorite. I'm sure the guys will kind of jump onto this, but you know, kind of when it's got a bit of wind or it's got a bit of rain, you know, the kind of the harder it's raining, the better I like it to target permit.
Because more permit that way.
Yeah, when I was guiding on Poivre, you know, when it was kind of a good chance of rain, I was licking my lips because it's such a sensitive fish that they kind of react to kind of any kind of noise or so on a calm day, kind of presenting your fly, the fly line hitting the water. Obviously, you kind of fishing a crab pattern. It's not really necessarily a delicate fly. It's going to make a big kind of splash. They're going to react to that on a calm day, and if it's got a bit of wind chop, you know, there's kind of like little ripples in the water. If it's raining, that just kind of their senses are just kind of dulled out, and they kind of. I've caught most of my fish, but I've had some very successful permit fishing in the rain and windy conditions. Absolutely.
And to tag onto that, I'd say for big jeets, you don't want that bright sunshine.
No.
And those big boys come out when you have a little bit of cloud cover, maybe a bit of rain. Those bait fish aren't expecting it, so
They're comfortable.
you know, whatever weather, just go out there and give it the best shot because you might see that big guy come through.
Everybody wants sun, but that's not always the best fishing.
No, I
It's
mean,
nice for visibility.
Let me take you on a 45-minute walk out to the surf and tell me how much you like it.
That's right. So another question just came in: Sabrew or PBR? What's the deal?
Ooh. Controversial.
The Sabrew is the official beer of the Seychelles.
Yeah, win in Rome.
When in Rome.
Yeah, you guys have been crushing the PBRs these last couple of weeks.
Looking for a sponsorship. If there's anybody listening,
PBR?
Perhaps, please.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, we've
we're-
had a lot.
So speaking of the last couple of weeks, I got to know a little bit about this right here. So this
Give it to Ollie.
this is a camouflage hat. It's got sequins on it. It's got a picture of I don't know if it's a 9mm or a 45. I'm not sure, but it just says "No more Mr. Nice Girl." And I believe this came from a gas station at Four Corners.
That's right.
Right? And what's the story with this lid right here? I mean, this thing is heinous. It might be the ugliest hat we've ever seen.
Well, that's the point. It's supposed to be the most atrocious hat. It's not just bought on a whim. We went to a few other kind of shops, and a lot of hats were turned down until this one was found. So basically, what it is that on the last couple of years on the off season, we've kind of all gone on a pretty big trip. You know, the group of guys, whoever they may be, and on that trip we've had a dunce cap. So this is this trip's dunce cap. And
Who's at size 2 best right now?
Ollie.
Would you model it for us?
So basically, perfect. It's
Like
a
a glove.
perfect fit.
Like a
It's a
glove.
perfect fit. So basically, how it works is that it's got to be a kind of a completely group decision. We all have to agree that the individual who kind of really kind of messes up in any kind of way has to wear that hat the next day, be it to dinner. I mean, he wore it to a bar last night. So to give an example, Ollie was wearing it yesterday, and I shouldn't actually say it, but the reason why he got it was because he was trying to put diesel into Jim's petrol truck.
Wait, what?
He didn't succeed.
Luckily, we stopped him before any kind of diesel was into the thing, but it was an absolute no-brainer that he had
Petrol
to.
is green in the UK.
Where are you now?
Diesel in
The
big
fact that it
letters.
says diesel on the hand pump as he took it into the thing, it was a complete like, well, it's a no-brainer that you had to kind of wear it. Don't even argue.
I'm glad you guys. It takes a village, right? You gotta do that.
Exactly.
Thanks.
Exactly. So.
Wow. Yeah. Actually, you should just hold on to that one.
Let's
So-
go with the boss.
Yeah. So this lid is apparently going back to the island with you guys.
Yeah.
Anyone who's going to fish Alphonse this year may get a chance to see this in the bar at night.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
And,
it may even get a chance to wear it.
It's not
Behave
guide only.
yourself.
It's not guide only, but
oh, it's not guide only. It could be.
well,
anyone.
we can open it to guests depending on the severity of the problem. But if you see your guide wearing it the night before,
Just know it's a good story.
Here, let's
at
just put
the
that
bar.
right in the middle of the table here, always, so everyone can just kind of take that in. That's perfect.
and if you kind of if you have him the next day, it's going to be a struggle, I think.
So we got another question in from Craig Schmidt. This one's for Alec. He wants to know, how did you get all the way from California to guiding in the Seychelles?
So I was guiding up in Alaska for a number of years at Enchanted Lake Lodge with a longtime guide from all over the world, Scott Keller, and he was working
Legend.
the dude. And he was guiding in the Seychelles for, I believe, 7 years. And so each and every year as I was up there, I was just poking and prodding, saying, how do I get a job there? How do I get a job there? And I did that for 3 years before they considered me. And just getting a foot in the door, and the rest is history.
He's still on probation, so we're not.
Golf carts and all.
Yeah, golf carts.
That's a traumatic experience.
Tommy,
I had to have counselling for that.
Correct.
That's
So-
not fun.
So Tommy's the youngest. Tommy's the youngest member of our guide team. Alec is the head guide on Alphonse. One night at the bar. Carry on.
Let's just leave it at that.
Come on.
I don't want to expand.
Okay.
No, we're not going to get the golf cart story.
So anyway,
We're gonna hit the golf cart.
But I wasn't there.
I can ask how old you are and where you are right now.
Wow.
But I wasn't there, so it'll be wrong for me to tell the story. So it's going to be one of you two.
Never mind. Moving
All right,
along.
we'll move on. We won't put Tommy on the spot. We'll actually be posting the full golf cart story later. And for the full details as well as photos.
I wasn't driving, by the way. It wasn't.
So we had Joshua just sent a question in. He wants to know if you could spend your entire. Actually, no. I'm sorry. This is from Mark. Yeah. He wants to know if you guys ever. Mark wants to know if you ever fish from boats, or is it all wading? In the videos, he only sees people wading. But how often are you fishing from boats?
I think now, a lot from boats, especially since kind of Alec came in with the pole. We've been poling along the flats a lot, especially targeting Jeet's permit. It's been crucial when you have those bad weather days, or even when it's perfect. You get to move a lot stealthier, and you have that vantage point, which is great from a platform. So I'd say, with a boat, you can't approach the fish as well as on foot, but you can definitely find them better. So some days on the boat are much more productive.
It's also very much destination dependent. I think you watch some of those films like the Yeti Cosmo film. You see the guys wading in the water. The difference between the tides and the different atolls is huge. So a place like Cosmo or a Stoke, you've got massive tidal differences. It makes it pretty difficult to fish from a boat because moving a boat around that sort of current is pretty tough. But at the same time, being on the boat might be a little bit more practical. What we do if you've been out to Alphonse a couple of times, a term that you'll become familiar with is African queening, where the guides are literally chest deep in water, hauling a boat along while you're up on the boat casting.
It's my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's my least favorite thing.
Cam has actually had to pull my fat ass around.
Exactly.
I would
And
feel,
you can attest to how heavy that can
Yeah.
be.
I
it's
feel
pretty
terrible.
heavy. It's pretty heavy up.
for like 5 minutes, I
Yeah.
feel terrible. No, this is awesome.
I will still see the fish before you do.
Yeah. So it's very much, I think, species dependent, because you might be fishing for bonefish and then you're going to be waiting most of the time. It's a lot easier because there's so many fish. You're going to be hitting fish after fish. So to be as a guide trying to handle a boat and a fish at the same time is a bit of a nightmare. And you don't need to be on the boat. And you're fishing in ankle deep water. You're having fish coming down, tailing in water that's ankle deep. You're not going to get a boat up there.
Also depends. Sorry, Rick.
Carry on.
Also depends on like whether you're fishing the inside of the lagoon,
Yeah,
or if you're out in
absolutely.
the surf,
Yeah.
going on a surf walk, being on foot, and kind of covering ground and catching a
It's
fish
kind of what it's all about.
like that. Seeing him,
It's a pinnacle.
it's incredible, and it's like, I mean, for me, especially like in the beginning, like learning the tides and stuff, you kind of, there's always this awkward bass. Like, can I still be here? Am I going to make it back to my boat? That's exciting, being on foot. Kind of.
Ollie will know all about making it back to his
tell us
boat
about
in
the
time,
story.
or-
but to kind of get back to the boat issue, it's also, as Dave said, it's destination dependent, it is species dependent, but it's also the angler dependent. So you can circumstantial. So you might get some a young fit guy that is capable of walking all day, or as opposed to perhaps a more elderly angler who isn't capable of going on a long surf walk. We can certainly cater for that, for him to be on the boat for the large majority of the day, and he will still have a fish-filled day. We can certainly cater for that. It's not a each kind of destination can cater for predominantly kind of skiff-orientated fishing, or if you want to kind of wait, we can kind of adapt and mold to every kind of guest need. Absolutely.
Sorry, just a quick story actually about that is one of our guides had sadly left us now, Brenton Poll. We have a 20 bonefish, 20 plus bonefish badge, and I mean the guest that he was guiding that day couldn't walk, so Brenton actually pulled him around to the bonefish drop, and he caught 20 plus bonefish from the skiff, pretty much sitting down most of the time.
Sitting down on
Each
the
client gets 20 bonefish in a day.
Correct.
You're going to get the 20 bonefish.
Yeah.
That's And they didn't get out of the boat.
They never. They
got pulled around the whole day.
They could fish in their flippy flops if they wanted to.
There you go. So there's the answer to the question about.
So about the
boats.
boot story we were speaking about it.
Yeah.
So another one, Christian Cochran just fired in a question. Biggest Indo permit you guys have personally come across, that not necessarily landed, but seen. The biggest one you've seen in the Seychelles.
So I'm gonna jump. I'm gonna take us now quickly. There's on a kind of insider wizard of Cosmo. If anyone's kind of been to Cosmolito, the kind of the insider wizard kind of atoll. If Yaku's kind of watching, I think
He'll know all about that.
he'll certainly know all about it. There's a pair of permit that when you see them, you automatically put a brush fly in front of it, and then you register that it's a permit, but then you still put another brush fly in front of it because it can't be that big. A permit cannot be that big. We guessed in like 25 pounds, something like that. 20, 25 pounds.
Yeah.
It is
It's ginormous.
monstrous. It's bigger than any other permit that you can kind of picture.
I've come across those
We
fish
haven't landed it yet.
3 days in a row, and every single time expecting to see them there, I've thrown a brush fly at them because they
You're
are
thinking it's a big
huge.
black cheat. Yeah, absolutely.
Huge.
And the one thing about permit is when you see them in the water, they're always bigger when you actually land them. So it's probably a 30-pound fish.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
That's and speaking of that, on that same note, we got Jesse who fired in a question. He wants to know the craziest thing you guys have seen working in the Seychelles. Craziest thing, fishing wise, non-fishing wise.
I
Craziest
can
thing.
answer that for the boys. On Alphonse, there's
Brandon on Friday night.
What was that?
Probably Brandon on Friday night.
on Alphonse, there's this phenomena that happens. We don't know exactly what the heck's going on, but we call it the Capel Shoal. And the Capoeira Shoal, yes. It is a group of between 7 and 10 nurse sharks with maybe 50 giant trevally that travel with it. Ranging from size, usually all big fish, and the biggest is, what would you say?
The biggest.
Yeah.
It's all of it.
It's
It's
giant
all of it.
fish.
That's all of them,
Anyway, and this thing will appear out of nowhere. It is impossible to time.
It's like winning the lottery if you found it. Yeah.
And when the guide finally sees it, because he doesn't believe the other experienced guides, what is
Yeah.
this you keep seeing? You've caught this fish off of it. And you'll be walking for triggerfish, and all of a sudden you'll just see a single nurse shark tail like this. You'll look over, and if you've seen it before, you're already grabbing your 12 bait. If you're not, you're like, what is that? And you see it again, and then all of a sudden you just see this coral head move onto the finger, and it's just these jeets moving super slow. And now, as a guy, good cast! Run as fast as you can! You can't make sense. It's very hard to make sense, and it is mind-blowing.
That's exceptional.
Yeah, it is really hard to beat that moment. I mean, that's definitely the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Absolutely. But one of the craziest things that I've seen, I mean, there's quite a lot, but one of the craziest things that I can remember is fishing on Cosmo is a guest kind of hooking into I'm guessing between an 85 and 90 centimeter GT and a barracuda, literally just bite it in half in one go. And we landed the head of it. And it was pretty much a clean cut, and it was pretty big, GT, in which I'm kind of guessing between 85 and 90 centimeters, but which is not a bad Jeet, but it happened so quick. It was just this monstrous log just plowed into the fish, and it was game over. I mean,
Jurassic Park.
It was scary. It was phenomenal to see how nature is so kind of aggressive and so cruel, I guess.
But there's so many different things that go on. I mean,
every single day you wake up, you're gonna see something new.
I mean, it's you either fending off a shark with a 12 weight, or you're walking up Normandy and you have jeets beaching themselves, literally beaching themselves behind you, and you're casting into water when there's no water behind you and there's a fish up there that you should be casting at.
That have swum up the beach with the wave,
or the Capel shoal. There's just
the rabbitfish migration.
Rabbitfish migration, which is a phenomenon that happens. There's so many different experiences. It's so hard to pinpoint one different. Or Brandon at the bar. I mean, that's worth traveling for. Right? It's worth getting there for.
To go into those rabbitfish just very quickly. So one of the times on Cosmo it's just a white sand. It's the biggest white sand flat that you can kind of imagine. And these birds are going. The GTs are going absolutely wild. There's about 60 GTs out there. Now I kind of get the skiff into position, and I tell the two anglers to kind of get into position and kind of. It's so obvious of what's going on, and the one guy's kind of getting in the zone, and the other guy's kind of walking backwards, casting behind him, and into just bland. There's nothing happening, and I'm like, it's so obvious that there's fish in front of him. There's just like, but you need to kind of be casting this way. It's just
you need to be in it to win.
You need to be in it to win, basically. It was I was pretty dumbstruck that he didn't want to cast towards the GT. He was kind of casting behind him. It's crazy.
Well. That's the one thing about the Seychelles that makes it, I think, so unique. As you just said, Stu, every day you're there, you're going to see something that is totally unique, and it's going to blow your mind. And Yellow Dog, we send people to a lot of places around the world, and, there is really, truly no place like the Seychelles. It is in a league of its own. And, with that, we're going to kind of wrap things up here. I'll give you a couple other things to keep in mind. Definitely follow us on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook. Check out the Seychelles Insider. It's a great way to get all of this kind of information, updates, news, specials, cool new introductions, things like that. Definitely follow us there. And keep the questions coming. Fire at us. If we didn't get to answer all the questions, I apologize. We got to as many as we could, but we will get back to you on Messenger or on email. So if you have any questions about the Seychelles, fire them in. If it happens before 11 tonight, these guys will probably send you a really interesting reply because I think it's going to be a big night out in Bozeman. That's right. But it's been great having these guys here. Dave, Tommy, Cam, Alex, Stu, and Ollie. It's been a great couple weeks with these guys in Montana. We love talking about the Seychelles. Give us a ring at Yellow Dog Fly Fishing Adventures. Check us out at yellowdogflyfishing.com. We'd love to work with you, help you out with your next trip. And thanks for tuning in. We'll raise a beer and say goodnight.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers. Hope to see you guys.